Bom dia, buenas tardes, good afternoon, g'day. You all remember Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth. When it comes to New Zealand agriculture, there's often convenient untruths. I face them regularly in my job in Washington, D.C., normally from members of the US Congress. I know that other colleagues in Europe face the same questions from the EU. We are an efficient agricultural producer, but we have enough productive capacity to feed approximately 30 million people. That's not many people. But we only have 4.5 million people in our country, therefore we export a lot, therefore we need to be at the leading edge of important things. For us, there is nothing more important than trade and market access, which in my view is a very, very important factor for sustainability and when we talk about the conversation of sustainability. You've already heard Ricardo Lopez Sanchez yesterday talking about New Zealand as a potential solution. Thanks for that, Ricardo, setting me up for a fall early in the conference. He also used an analogy to Neymar, Messi, James Rodriguez, to my Colombian colleague on the panel. Great number 10s. We also, in our country, happen to be rugby world champions. We have a very good number 10 ourselves, Dan Carter. So I liked his analogy, and I thought about it as the regional round table, and I think that's a very good analogy. That's your star player is your regional round table. But every good team needs to surround a great player, and Brazil knows this very well, with other very good players, or the great player's not going to win you many games. So what I'm going to try and do today is show to you, and you've already seen an example, Brian's already had beef and lamb up on the SAI platform, Ricardo talked about us yesterday. What I'm going to try and show you today is what we're doing to support our great player. You following me so far? Okay. First of all, who are we? We are an industry good organisation. What does that mean? We are funded by farmer levies, sheep and beef levies, at the slaughterhouse, a one-off payment, 50 cents for every lamb, $4.40 for every cattle beast. Every 6 years, we have a referendum voted on by all of those farmers to decide whether we cease to exist. So I may be calling some of you in about 6 months' time looking for a job. It's brutal and it's true and it's possible, okay? That's important. We have 4 pillars to our organisation: farm, market, people, info. The sustainability conversation is mainly happening in the farm pillar. That's research and that's extension services. Increasingly, and Brian knows my colleague in Europe very well, my colleague in Brussels spends a lot of his time on sustainability. I spend a lot more time on trade. But in a previous life, I spent a lot of time on sustainability, and we'll get to that. The challenge of improvement. There's 2 stories in this graph. I haven't got time to tell you both. The first story is the grey bars. That was 1990, 1991. This is talking about farm profitability, different levels of profitability. So the further you are down this end, you're losing money, and about sort of a third of the way down, you're starting to make money, and then right up by the end of the arrow, that's where the farmers are making a lot of money. The grey arrows are important. That's when we came off subsidies. If you want to talk about subsidies, I'll talk forever with you after the presentation on subsidies outside. But the important point here is to look, even though we've improved, we've got profitability down that end, and this is to Guilherme's question from Embrapa earlier today. I thought that was a good question. We see this as the opportunity. The guys down that end, bringing the guys down this end up. And that's where we're going to focus a lot of our attention. And we'll come back to that. We were late to the GRSB, and we were late for a very good reason, because we just feel like we're doing a lot in other spaces. But we feel it's the right time. We felt it was the right time to join, and we will be here to collaborate and do anything we can to help coach and assist and obviously receive feedback from other groups and other panel members. We're looking forward to the dialogue, and we appreciate that you guys seem pretty set that there's going to be a horses for courses approach, Apologies, translators. But basically, what I'm saying there is the regional roundtables look like they're going to be the ones that are going to be driving this, which we're pretty pleased about. We often talk in New Zealand about the tyranny of distance, given that we're so far away from our markets. But we actually see the flip side of that is, as I said at the outset, it allows you to focus on what you do best, and what we do best is export agricultural products. But we have things in our legislation that have been in place for a very, very long time, many, many years. In 1999, we put in place an Animal Welfare Act. You heard Kim, one of the presenters yesterday from Cargill, talk about the 5 freedoms. That's legislated in New Zealand. Earlier this week, a farmer was found mistreating a bunch of cows. That farmer got a very heavy fine, and that farmer will not be allowed to own any animals commercially for 5 years. So it's not only real, it's not only been in place for 15 years, it's working. We've done carbon footprints in beef, we've done carbon footprints in lamb, we've done water footprints. It's not very well publicised because we don't want to start down that path just yet. We're involved in the SAI platform, we're involved in LEAP and FAO. We're involved in the Global Livestock Dialogue. We founded the Global Research Alliance into Livestock Emissions Abatement. I was surprised that Ricardo was surprised that we had reached out to Latin America. There's a very good reason for that. Frank Mitloner today spoke about the United States agricultural footprint as a total of greenhouse gas emissions. In New Zealand, our footprint is closer to 50%. It's about 48, 49%. That was our Houston, we've got a problem moment. We looked around the world and we saw some other countries that have a very similar agricultural footprint. Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, and others. It was a logical, deliberate strategy to reach out to like-minded countries with similar agricultural footprints. The effort, I am so pleased to sit in that session with Frank Mitloner today and think all those years in the government have paid off. They actually have paid off, and it's great to hear that conversation happening. There's plenty of other things that I could talk about. Even yesterday we saw that we're involved in the GTPS. I went down, I took the opportunity, I didn't know about that, I took the opportunity to jump down to our Consulate General down in Paulista yesterday afternoon and have a chat with them what they're doing. They're involved in the conversation, which is great. So we're out there, we're doing a lot, and I should not forget as well, looking at my McDonald's colleagues down here, we're also doing the Sustainable Beef Integration Program, a jointly developed program between McDonald's Australia, McDonald's New Zealand, New Zealand meat processing companies, and ourselves. Key principle there is sustainable beef production and supply, and transparency in production systems. We've got other things coming at us. Water is huge for us. It's a part of our cultural identity in New Zealand. It's very, very important for our iwi. Our iwi are our Māori Indigenous people. In New Zealand, Māori Indigenous people are a very, very important part of our society. They have a political party. They are about 19%. It's one of the only 2 Indigenous languages, when I last looked, that's actually having a revival worldwide. It's a big deal. This whole process around water is very, very heavily fraught. It would be, I would imagine, very similar to the collaborative process you've been through in this forum. And we have got to a point where we've got agreement among a huge variety of stakeholders within our country that document is now going to provide advice to our government and to our ministers. But we're not out of the woods. I think we've got a lot of work we need to do in the water space, quality and quantity. And finally, before I leave you, just to let you know about a project that is in play. It's just started. It's called the Red Meat Profit Partnership. You won't see any NGOs in that profit partnership, but it's very, very similar, apart from the WWF that you had at the end, in your GTPS panel. So we've got banks, meat processing companies, farmers, ourselves. And really that's looking at the next 7 years. As the Rabobank guy said today, they invest only in long-term projects or medium to long-term projects. So that's happening, and that's going to be looking across the supply chain, and that will for sure have a large element of sustainability.